Hey everybody, welcome to the Hello Road podcast. And today we've got a fun topic. We're going to talk about importing a car, and specifically importing a JDM car, because that's kind of what I'm interested in. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, same. Pretty much
Okay.
JDM.
Yep. So hopefully we can talk about, really want to get into talking about Nissan Pulsar GTIRs, because that's the car that is the one that I really want to import before those prices go absolutely insane. They're already kind of getting insane, but
Yeah.
so yeah, that sounds like a fun thing to dive into today. You've done a lot of research. I have done pretty much none. So it'll be kind of probably you providing useful information and me just kind of like drooling over cars that I see online. So.
I'll do my very best.
Okay. And we aren't experts in this topic.
No.
Obviously, we haven't imported a car ourselves, but it's something that we both want to do. So
Yes.
we've kind of been looking into it. So
Yeah.
yeah. And
For
speaking
a long
of,
while.
yes. Well, and actually just recently I sent you that, what was it? It was a Daihatsu. Of course it was a Daihatsu.
Of course it was.
The Avanzato R?
Yes, the Mira Avanzato or Avanzato.
Avanzato. Okay.
Yes,
there you go.
Yes.
So this one was on Craigslist in the Los Angeles area. It's this little tiny, I mean, you can tell me more about it. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but it's small and it's only $5,000. I was like, oh, this is your next car, Paul.
Right.
And it's already here.
And it's already here. And it would be, but there's a couple little things about it that we can talk about on why it's not really a $5,000 car. But that can be saved a little bit later. So
okay.
Yeah. So before we get started, there's some stuff going on out there. I don't know. It's just a kind of a weird
something about Toyota Coronas. Like there's something going on. Like Toyota Coronas are just causing trouble, causing a ruckus.
They're causing a huge ruckus. Those damn Toyota Coronas, all 80 of them that are left running around.
But seriously, did you do any panic shopping because of all this coronavirus?
Myself, no. My significant other, I wouldn't say panic shopping. I would just say she was preparing because she knew there was going to be tons of people wiping everything out. And
that's kind of the problem. Yeah.
I know.
I don't think there's it's not exactly, I mean, maybe there are hoarders out there that are kind of worried about being stuck in their homes for a while, but I feel like, is it really hoarding or is it just everybody's like putting pressure on the system all at the same time?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the inventory at these places is just in time. So it's not like they can immediately replenish,
no, it's true.
I still don't understand. The toilet paper.
Toilet paper. Yeah, I don't either. But, you see the pictures online, like people with like those Costco shopping carts with like 6. And I mean, if you're familiar with the Costco toilet paper, it comes in this giant, huge ass package. I think there's like something like 48 rolls or something in it. It's like no joke, right? And they like have like 6 of them in their cart. And it's like, whoa. Yeah, that's going to last more than 2 or 3 weeks worth of toilet paper, homeboy. That's like 2 or 3 years worth of toilet paper. Yeah, I mean, so it is what it is. I mean, yeah, we're good to go over here for just the avoidance of the mass hysteria that has overtaken at least Southern California, but pretty much
it's everywhere. I was talking to my parents in Massachusetts, and there's no toilet paper there. I was talking to somebody in Michigan. They're like, no toilet paper there. It literally is everybody in the country is like, oh, coronavirus must be spread via my butt, so I better take care of this immediately.
Right, exactly. I mean, what is this going to do for the teenage TPing of houses industry? I mean, it's going to be hit pretty hard. Do teenagers still TP houses? I mean,
well, funny that you should mention that because a few months ago, some kids did that to my house, and they did such a terrible job. I wasn't even upset that they did it. I thought it's like at least the kids are outside.
No, exactly.
But they did such a terrible job. It took me 3 minutes to remove all of it. Like it wasn't even high in the tree. Like I got almost all of it without even having to resort to like a rake or a tool or anything. It just pulled it right out. It was very poorly done, and I'm very disappointed in the kids of America today. They don't know how to TP houses.
Well,
yep.
I'm sorry it wasn't done better.
Yeah.
I tried to get it up as high as I could in the trees.
Sure, I know.
But you gotta when I was just I was just by myself after I left, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go back and TP Ethan's house.
Yeah.
I tried. I really tried.
Not good at it.
I'll try better next time if I can even find toilet paper.
No, well, we don't have any. Well, it's funny because I went out to get some because we were low, and luckily the crappy little. It took me a few stores to find it, but luckily the crappy little Albertsons supermarket that we have near us that nobody goes to, they had some.
Yeah,
it was just depends on where you go.
Yeah, if you go to like Costco or Sam's Club or Target or Walmart, no. But you know who does have toilet paper? Like. 7-Eleven.
Exactly.
No, I'm serious. They do. Or like those little markets, like they tend to have that stuff. And it's more expensive, yes. But if you're out because all the dingbats went out and bought all the toilet paper, you could, go and spend a couple more dollars. Cause I mean, it is kind of a life necessity.
Sure.
I guess in a pinch, like, you can go and assess the trees in your yard and see maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I bet bidet sales are through the roof right now.
Oh, they are. If you're in that industry, this is your time. This is your time to shine. This is when you're going to be able to afford the lease on that used Saturn. So,
yeah. So I mean, I understand why people are scared, and you know, like there's some sense in like, okay, if you are going to be self quarantining or something, or if you're older and you're a senior and you actually like can't get out of the house very easily, you might want to stock up on some things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I would like to believe that there's not that many hoarders, and it just happens to be everybody trying to stock up at the same time. But judging from photos I've seen of shelves, I think there's a lot of hoarders. Even with limit 2 per customer, there's still somehow everybody is stocking up. But you talk about the effects of this coronavirus thing, and the whole self-distancing measures that people are taking, and schools getting canceled, and it kind of spills over into automotive events. There's car shows, all the major cars, even the minor car shows have been canceled. Even car launches, those have been canceled. Yep. Racing, NASCAR is going to be racing without fans.
Are they still racing? I thought they were fully canceled.
Maybe they're fully canceled by now. Yeah. And then just today, I got an email that the 24 Hours of Lemons is canceling the Willow Springs race that we were going to do, which it makes me feel a little bit better because we weren't going to have our car ready in time for it anyway. So
yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, it is pretty unprecedented, and it's one of those life events that we're all experiencing, and we're in the thick of it right now. So it's crazy. And like I said, it feels like you're in the beginning opening scenes of some zombie movie or something, but ride it out. That's all we can really do. Right. So
sure.
Stay safe and wash your damn hands.
Wash your damn hands. Don't touch your damn face.
Hands. Don't touch your damn face. That's it. That's all you can do. But you know what else you can do? I was thinking about this. You know what else you can do when you're self-quarantined at home? You can listen to all these podcasts.
Yes.
This is the perfect time, right?
It's a perfect time to go through our back catalog too. Since it has been
see how it's gotten
better.
Yeah, 30. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I mean, you can see how it's gotten marginally better over the course of 34 episodes.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. We've had some good guests over the. If you haven't listened to some of the old ones, you gotta do that. We got a lot of good guests that have been on the show. So.
Yeah, go on back. Listen.
All right. So we have a couple car updates that I think we want to talk about before we get into the importing the JDM stuff. So you had mentioned that you had done some things with your Fit. You also mentioned that you have done nothing with your Bug, which
I have done nothing with my Bug.
And I will never get on anybody's case for not working on a car because look at my terrible collection of cars that never gets worked on. I will say this. I will say this. My last video is about the Stanza Wagon is getting running. So I did a little bit of work, just a little bit.
Awesome.
I put a battery in a car.
Does it still smell like pee in it though?
It does not smell that great. It smells pretty bad. But I do feel like I can remedy that, because I think there's a leak in the back, and I feel like perhaps there might just be a little bit of mold or mildew or something underneath one of the carpets. So I feel like if I pull up the carpets and really do a deep clean, I might be able to remedy that.
Nice.
So I don't think anybody was literally peeing in the car. I think it's had a small leak for years.
I thought it was maybe I think there in one of the videos you had of it a long time ago, you mentioned that it smelled a little, and maybe it was like from a maybe rodent or something.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of more just like a musty, like mildewy smell, because the Subaru that I had, which we called the Poobaroo because it literally smelled like pee and poo. That car definitely was peed in for sure. That car was peed in many, many times. And that car, obviously, we quickly removed the entire interior, including replacing the driver's seats with other seats we got at a junkyard. But yeah, I feel like this isn't quite as bad as the Poobaroo was. So
yeah. At times that's the only measure that you can do is just
rip it out,
just rip it all out, start from scratch.
Yep. So what's going on with the fit?
Well, with the fit, nothing with a bug, nothing with a Daihatsu, but the fit's gotten all the love the past couple weeks, and it's all kind of been just dumb luck because of where I work. I work for a company that kind of sells and makes racing parts for a certain kind of car. I don't want to get too deep into it, or else everybody's going to figure it out.
You don't want everybody to figure it out? It's gonna be top secret. Hello,
top secret. Yeah, for a little bit longer. I'm sure everybody will eventually. But
so this is no longer the place you used to work with
the trucks.
Semi trucks and diesel trucks and that kind of. This is you can say that it's a much better, nicer place to work. Okay,
it's. Yes, 180,000%. It's so much better. And this just kind of drove it home. My boss was getting his race car prepped to go to the racetrack, and he decided he wanted to get new racing tires because he doesn't like the old ones because they were used for 2 track days. So I didn't think anything of it. And then he gets the new tires in and then goes and gets them mounted, and then proceeds to take the old ones and take them out to the dumpster. And when I saw them rolling, I said, hold on 1 second here. Hold on. And I walked out there and I say, you're just going to throw them away? And he's like, well, yeah, they're not good for the track anymore. They're just, they're kind of used up and everything. I was like, how much life do you think is left in them? Honestly? He goes, well, I mean, I don't know if you're going to track it, like just do a track day, probably a couple events, maybe, if not like full on racing, because he races. He doesn't like just do track days. He's like racing. And I was like, well, what about like an autocross? And he goes, oh yeah, it'll last forever. So I am the proud owner of 4 slightly used racing tires what are they? They are 2 Toyo Proxys RRs and 2 Hankook. I forgot the model, whatever their track tire was. And the Hankooks are got a little bit more meat on them. So the size they are is a 205/50/15, which doesn't really jive with like the tire size converter for the fit. But you know what? I don't care because they were free. So now I just need to get myself a cheap set of 15-inch wheels, and I've got racing tires for the fit.
There you go. Well, it's funny. That's the same exact tire size we use. That's awesome. That's the same exact tire size that we use for Liam Neeson. Exact same size.
Well, I'm going to have to keep my eye out for the next time we get more, and maybe you'll get a present.
Yes. Nice. I don't know if they would work for lemons because we have specific tire rules for lemons. But,
is there? Really? I thought it was kind of just like...
I can't remember what the treadwear rating has to be. They have to be basically kind of terrible tires.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember
these are like. Yeah. They're slicks.
Yeah. So. Okay. Well, and that's the thing. When I used to race Spec Miata, all of the really good drivers that had a lot of money, or they had the big budgets, they would use a set of tires a weekend, and then they'd be done. So I would get old tires from those guys because I'm not gonna just use a set of tires for one weekend. That's ridiculous.
Right.
But yeah, plenty of people do that because otherwise you lose, at least with Spec Miata, depending on the track, you could lose a second or two a lap if your tires are trashed. So
yeah.
And it's with such tight competition, you needed to use new tires a lot. So yeah, that's good. So actually I'll see if I can dig up the wheel that we use for Liam Neeson. They might have the bolt pattern for your Fit. Because it's funny, the wheels that we use are cheaper than the tires that we use. Isn't that nuts?
It's crazy because these tires like $250, I guess you would say, a piece on Tire Rack, which is, it's not cheap. I mean, $1,000 and these are 15-inch tires, mind you. I mean, it comes down. I mean, I know we've kind of beat that horse pretty well over like the cost of racing, but I mean, it is very expensive, and especially when you consider, $1,000 in tires for 15s. So that's like a little car. If you're like racing an S2000 or an M3, oh my gosh, it's a lot of money. It's so much money. So not only did I get these tires for free, being that I work at this place, I do tend to get, I don't want to say a hookup, but I do get a discount on certain items. And I was in one of our suppliers, we buy a lot of parts from Eibach, the spring company. And I was just like looking on their site and I was like, well, maybe they have something for the Fit. And I found out they were closing out the springs for my model. So for about a little over $100, I got a set of lowering springs for my Fit.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fully embracing this whole like tuner racer thing, even though I'm a man in my damn near 40s, with my spoon exhaust and Eibach lowering springs. But no, you know what? It's going to make the Fit look so much better. And it's going to handle a little bit better, I think, too. I've done when I had my Mini, I did so many like spring and shock combinations. It was kind of dizzying to even think about everything that I had on it. But yeah, I was like, I mean, I can't beat that for 100 and whatever it was that I paid for the springs.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of a no brainer. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. I just got to find a set of wheels. I had a good, how do you want to say this? I had a tip on a set of one of my dream wheels, which is a wheel called by the company Axis, and it's called the, Mag Light, not like the flashlight. It's just MAGLIGHT.
Oh, those are great. I love those wheels.
They're 4-spoke. They're so cool. And
those are really neat.
They're really cool. So somebody had a set for sale on OfferUp, and it was a really good price. And I actually talked them down a little bit too. And I was all set up to go get him, and then I messaged him, and then that heart sinking moment when like you're like waiting for him to respond, like I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm ready, I got the money. No response, and then he messages me the next day, says, yeah, they're actually on my daily right now, and I'm just like, all right, let me know when they're ready, and I'm just like,
a-hole, come on.
I'm like, why the fuck would you put something for sale on OfferUp? Oh no, it's on my car. It just.
That's so stupid.
It's like so close, but yet so far. And it was going to work out perfect because they have like tires that have like 50% tread life still left on them, which
you could just leave those on for now.
I can leave them on for now and just roll with the Axis wheels and my lowering springs and just be awesome. But no.
Yeah, you got it. I was going to recommend the wheels we have on Liam Neeson, which is, I think it's an Advanti Storm or something, which they were like $110 each or something. But yeah, you definitely have to go, because that's kind of a retro. I don't know how old that wheel is, but it's kind of a retro looking wheel.
It's early 2000s. I remember they came out, and I remember seeing pictures of them in like a Super Street or a import tuner on a Toyota MR2 Spider. And I was like, oh my God, those wheels are so cool. And then
they are cool.
I think BF Goodrich had a promo. Was it BF Goodrich? Yeah, they used to have those really cool ads that like folded out as like a 2-page ad that were like a car, like there was like an S2000 and stuff. And I recall there was one that had a Scion XA, and it had those wheels on it, or maybe not those exact wheels, but a 4-spoke wheel. And I was like, oh my God, that looks so cool. And that's when I was like, man, I really like 4-spoke wheels. That would be cool if I can get a set of those. And then, so they've always been a wheel I've lusted after. I mean, it's not a Volk racing wheel or something crazy like that. It's just something I would like, something weird and quirky and odd. But I was like, man, those wheels are so cool. And when I saw them on OfferUp, I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is going down right now. But it just didn't happen. So we'll see. Maybe he'll message me tomorrow and be like, hey, come get them. And then all will be grand again. So yeah, but I'm excited for that for the Fit, because that means that with a dedicated set of track wheels, I can hit up the autocross course and or maybe a track day. I don't know. I don't know if we'll go. I don't know if we'll go that far, but at least definitely an autocross, which is going to be which is going to be great and everything. So, but time will tell. So, got to get a set of wheels. Until then, that's what I got on the Fit. I'm excited. So,
well, that's exciting.
Good stuff. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that car with the lowering kit on it, and then those, you got to find those wheels, or you got to find something similar.
Yeah,
something kind of a little bit early 2000s is kind of a. I think that's a good era to try to shoot for your Fit. Kind of give it a little bit of a throwback.
Yeah,
totally.
That'd be pretty neat. It would be awesome. It would be awesome. So
yeah, you don't have any Daihatsu news? That's just sitting there kind of sad.
Well, not necessarily sad. I mean, I drive it to work every so often.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's just been hanging out. Oh, I mean, it's not really for that car, but I did get a little, and this is thanks to our good friend Brad over at Auto Off Topic, who was nudging me on this. Yep. I did get a little 1/64th scale, like Hot Wheel scale Daihatsu Charade model, and
that's cool.
It was through eBay. They've been out for about a year, and I just kind of never pulled the trigger because it's a 5-door hatch, which mine's a 2-door hatch. That's all we had here. But but hey, and it's actually really good quality. I actually took it out and was looking at it. I was like, this thing's really cool. So now there's like 3 other ones, and I have to buy those now because it's just,
how could you not?
How could I not? So.
Stock up. Panic, buy some Daihatsu Charade.
Hot Wheels. Yeah,
Hot Wheels,
exactly.
Yes. So I, let's see, what's going on with my car world? I've got a lot of cars that have been sitting here for a while. My 1986 Nissan Stanza Wagon, known as the Prairie in other markets, and then Multi in Canada. That car had been sitting in my yard for a year. And I looked at it. I just kind of parked it over on the side, and I put it in a place where I really didn't have to look at it, which is good and bad. It was good because I didn't really cross my mind that I even own that car still, but it was bad because it was just slowly like decaying. Just recently I determined that the wheel, the tire had completely fallen apart, and the other 3 tires are just barely holding on for life. So yeah, so my most recent video, I kind of go through the process of getting that running again. And it really wasn't that hard. It basically just needed a battery and a new tire. So that's actually running and driving again. I have a little bit more excitement for that car now. Maybe it's partly because how excited other people are about it when I post about it on Instagram or Twitter and that kind of thing. There's so many people coming out of the woodwork that are just talking about like, oh, I love that car. I used to own one of those, or so it's kind of fun, and it's gotten me a little bit more reinvigorated into like the idea of trying to like at least fix it up to the point where I could sell it to somebody that would really adore it. So, yeah, but it's like, I got to take care of the piecemeal or whatever it's going on in there, and it probably needs all 4 new tires, and it needs a new fuel pump, and then the electrical system is just so messed up. When I turn the car off, the brake lights just stay on, and when I turn the turn signal on, the tach bounces up and down. When I turn on the headlights, you hear like the door open chime. Like there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. It's all crazy.
It's prepping you for owning a Jaguar or a British car. That's what it's doing.
Yeah.
It's all these electrical things.
Well, I think probably what happened is what the person that I bought this from probably saved it from like, a barn. And, I think that in order for them to get it running and quickly selling it, I think they just did a whole bunch of really quick and dirty, really terrible wiring hacks, because there's a lot of stuff just apparently wired directly to the battery. There's just random fuses in line with wires, and like there's other things that are just plugged into the fuse box. So I need to basically unhook all that. I need to kind of do like an assessment of the electrical system, unhook all that stuff, and figure out why they even rewired all this stuff. So my guess is maybe they couldn't get it started. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's all sorts of weird I have to basically unhook the battery in order to store the car, or else the battery goes dead within a couple hours. So
yeah.
But the good news is that car at least is running, and I kind of maybe you can come up with some suggestions for this, but I've been looking on eBay for aftermarket wheels. I kind of think it might be cool to lower it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like a lowered Stanza Wagon with some cool JDM 80s wheels. Because there's quite a few designs that you look at on like eBay and you kind of think, oh yeah, I remember seeing that like ages ago, but you don't see them anymore. I don't have any examples off the top of my head, but I'm sure you could probably we probably come up with some
like work equip 03s like would be totally awesome on that thing.
Sure.
Oh man, dude, that would be so cool if you were to do that.
It would be cool. I would love to like to do that and like take pictures of it, but I certainly don't really intend on driving it that much. That car is just ridiculously unsafe. There's just no B pillar. So it's kind of fun to drive around a little bit, but it's and plenty of people drove those around in the 80s and 90s and did just fine. But I'm sure there's plenty of people that drove those around in the 80s and 90s that got an side impact that are no longer with us. So you just don't hear about those.
Yeah. Well, it is definitely such a cool car, and I think that's a great vision for it. I mean, and even just lowering it, something like that could be, we can just cut a coil off the spring or something, because I'm sure nobody makes suspension for it.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that there's some parts on that car that are still readily available, and I'm just curious if there's like a Sentra or something like that where a off the shelf part might end up working. I don't know, but
that's true. I mean, they could have just shared the platform with something else that had some racy thing that's still used to this day, and like some, like you said, some Sentra, SER or something like that. I don't know off the top of my head.
It would be kind of interesting to find out, because when we when we had our Subaru Gambler 500 car, the Pubaru, we basically all we did to lift it was throw Forester shocks and springs on it. That's all we did. So maybe there's something like that where if I do enough little kind of searching around, I can see maybe other Nissan products that might end up working, but I don't know. Yeah. And I know that I've seen plenty of other Nissan Prairies that have been lowered. So if I can try to identify how they did it. Because, cutting a spring seems fun, but there's so few of these cars left. I'd hate to kind of like, sort of permanently
that's true.
ruin it,
That's true.
If somebody wanted to put it back to stock, I'd want to kind of make it easy enough for them to do that. But again, it's hard. It's really hard with these Radwood era cars, these kind of like, in my mind, they're classic cars, but in everybody else's mind, they're just trash,
Right.
They're not worth anything. There's a small group of enthusiasts, Radwood people and Malaise Motors people that love these things, but they're just, I don't know. Is a Stanza Wagon ever going to be worth anything? Maybe when there's one left. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's something that, you got to make that. I've been in that same boat with my Daihatsu before, because it's like I'm trying to find something to do something with the suspension, and there's nothing out there, and I can buy coilovers from some unknown brand. Well, kind of, I guess, unknown brand, but they're coming from Malaysia or something like that, and it's just like I don't know what happens if they break or they come broken. Am I going to get my money back or shafted out of $500 or whatever they cost? And it's the same thing. So maybe the thing to do, the first thing, step one, is make sure you have a setup with LKQ, the junkyards that we have around here, set up an alert for any time a Stanza Wagon comes in.
Sure.
And then you rush down there and we'll rip the suspension off that thing. So we can then sacrifice a spring. So
yeah, exactly. That's
I don't know why I'm on this whole cutting of springs thing. I don't usually condone that. But I mean, it's kind of the only option we might have. So
exactly. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, I bet if I go on car-part.com, that's another one that kind of, you could search junkyards throughout the US. So I bet there's a Stanza Wagon on there. There's got to be at least one.
Well, it took me 2 years for a Daihatsu to show up in the LKQ system. So,
right.
we'll see.
All right.
So we'll see.
All right. So maybe we should move on to the topic of bringing another car into our fleets, because we really need more, right?
We need more cars. We need more cars.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Because we're doing such a good job with our existing.
I know we are. We just need more. It's like we're instead of hoarding toilet paper, we're holding, Japanese shit boxes. So
yes,
that's
exactly.
Kind of goes hand in hand.
I actually, it's funny because I just literally a couple of days ago put all of my cars in because what do I have, like 10 now? I don't even know. Put them all in the front yard, kind of line them all up, and it was just like, yes, this is like a museum of weird and terrible Japanese cars. I mean, there's a few other ones mixed in there, but anyway. So let's bring a few more into our fleet.
Let's do it.
So you did some research. Yes. How do you want to start this off?
Well, I can kind of just go over like why do you need to import it? Why didn't we get it? And all those other fun things.
Sure.
So I'm probably going to drop a lot of. I'm going to say it. I'm going to drop a lot of knowledge right now.
Okay. All right. You said it here first. I'm definitely not dropping knowledge. So,
well,
I don't have that kind of confidence.
I've actually been looking into doing this since 2003, 2004.
Okay.
When I was like, how I was in my 20s or whatever, early-ish 20s, and I was like, yeah, I can totally bring in a Skyline or something like that. And I actually paid Motorex a visit way back then. Motorex was a company that existed in Southern California in the early-ish 2000s, and their whole thing was, if you want a GTR, you come to us.
Okay.
Because everybody wanted a GTR. And that's kind of where I started to learn and see what it took to bring one of these cars in, and then the cost that went into it. So we're going to go ahead, and nothing came of that Motorex thing. Obviously, I did not buy I did not buy a Skyline, but really, when it comes to importing cars, the reason we do it is because it's almost seen as forbidden fruit in a way.
Yeah, totally.
There's so much cool stuff that what existed in Japan or came out only in Japan or in Europe too, and I'm kind of going to start the story in Europe because that's when the whole reason why it's such a pain in the butt to bring an imported car into the United States started. It actually, up until it was about the mid 1980s, you were pretty much free to kind of bring whatever you wanted into the United States. As long as
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, what they were doing, a lot of the Mercedes-Benzes of the time, there was the European version and then the American version of the car. And the European version typically had some more power. Maybe it looked different because it didn't have the crash protection bumpers or something on it. So a lot of people were going through overseas brokers and buying the cars from Germany and bringing them over here. They called those They called those cars gray imports. So it would be just a lot. But if you were an enthusiast, it was kind of the way to go because, the 280 SL that was sold in Europe looked so much better because it had all the European parts on it, European spec parts on it than the American one. And nobody really batted an eye. And that's the way it worked up until the late 1980s when it kind of was like Mercedes-Benz put the kibosh on it when they're like, we're losing sales of our own cars on our soil or on American soil to people just bringing them in from Germany. So they, along with BMW, a lot of people did this with BMWs as well too. They went to the National Highway Safety Transportation Administration and said, we need to come up with something to make it next to impossible for people to bring cars in. So that's when the whole 25-year rule came into play. And the 25-year rule is basically you can't import anything into the United States unless it is 25 years old. So that's kind of how that started. Now, that was in the early 90s, which is just this horrible sweet spot of right when the JDM, the import scene kind of started blossoming, especially in Southern California.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Almost coincides to the release of the Gran Turismo video game, which is, and Fast and the Furious, which is kind of like around the same-ish area when people started realizing that there was other cars out there that weren't necessarily sold here, like Nissan Skylines. Like Gran Turismo opened my eyes to a lot of cars that were not sold here, and it was like, whoa, there's this whole other thing. It's not just Mustangs and Camaros and like BMWs. There's like some really awesome high performance Japanese cars, and it was because of that game. And then also Fast and the Furious, you had one of the characters driving a R33 Nissan Skyline, and so it was like, whoa, I can make this happen. So that's kind of what started getting everybody really wanting to like, I want to bring something in. Oh wait, there's this federal law saying that you can't bring anything in over 25 years. So that's the law, and that's the way it's going to be. So let's go ahead and we're going to fast forward all the way here to the year 2020. Okay. So basically the law says you can bring in a car that was not sold in the United States. They call this a direct import car. And that's when you bring in a car that was not meant to be sold in the United States of America. It has to be 25 years old, and it's based not off of model year, but actually off of production date. Yep. So this is the third month of 2020. So anything up to the third month of 1995. Yep. That's basically where you can go to. Now, for everybody that's listening that's not in the state of California or Hawaii, pretty much if you want to own one of these awesome imported Japanese cars, it's very simple. It's just like basically buying a used car. There's plenty of importers that are around across the United States that specialize in just that. They import cars, Skyline GTRs, Pulsar GTIRs, you name the cool JDM car, they can do it. They can bring it in for you. And it's literally like buying a used car. And, typically some of the cars that were sold in the United States had a Japanese counterpart, like the Toyota Supra and the Acura NSX. Those can actually be had a little bit cheaper if you can just deal with the right-hand drive aspect of it. But other than that, they're basically the same exact car. Sure. So it's actually pretty cool to save a little bit of money and have some really cool JDM street cred, I guess you would say, if you were to get something like that. But that's every state but California and Hawaii. Hawaii has very different rules than California that are a little bit more strict. So I'm not even going to really kind of get into that, because when I tell you about what you have to do in the state of California to get one of these cars, just kind of imagine that with Hawaii, but a little bit more. So early in the show, you mentioned to me about the awesome $5,000 Daihatsu Mira Avanzato R, whatever the model is, for $5,000, and it was in Long Beach, because of course it was in Long Beach, because that's where the port is. So let's say I wanted to buy that car in the state of California, and I didn't know the rules and the laws. And again, I'm not an expert, but I've done a fair amount of research on this. So I feel pretty confident in telling our listeners, basically, that are in California, what needs to go into this if you wanted to buy that $5,000 Daihatsu Mira Avanzato R. So first and foremost, it would be pretty damn near impossible for just an individual to do it. Because for the car to be legal in California, what needs to happen is the car needs to pass kind of we're going to call it an inspection from not just the EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency that it's like all over the United States, right? The California has their own EPA, and that would be the California Air Resource Board, or CARB. And it needs to get emissions tested in a laboratory so they can assess what needs to be done to bring the vehicle into compliance to meet emission standards for that particular model year.
Now, this process is a process that can get quite expensive. That's correct, right?
Because correct.
I remember looking into this when I was looking at Pulsar GTIRs, and there's very few of them that are. I don't even think I saw any that were CARB compliant. Mm-hmm. And I think Top Rank was one of those importers that I think can help you get it CARB compliant, but could end up being $5,000-$6,000 extra on top of the car.
It sure can.
Yeah.
And that's about what it's going to cost. Now, that fee, the emissions fee, the laboratory fee as it's called, because they get the car, that particular car that you're buying will get sent to the CARB laboratory, wherever it is, and they're the ones that make the assessment what needs to be done to bring the car into air compliance. Now, and the fee can range, like you said, from $5,000 on up. Something like a small car with a 3-cylinder engine, like a Daihatsu Miura, or a Honda Beat, or Suzuki Cappuccino, Mazda AZ1, AutoZam AZ1. Probably $5,000 on top of the price of the car, which, you think about it and you come away with it. And it's like, okay, well, it's $10,000 for that car. Like we're going to talk about the $5,000 Daihatsu. Like, so that's now a $10,000 car.
Sure.
The value of that car in its home market is probably nothing more than $1,500. So
sure,
you have to be an extreme weirdo like me to want to dump the money on that. But if it's something that you've always wanted, or it's something that is going to be like some sort of a forever car that, then it's justifiable, I think, to you.
Sure, exactly. I think for a lot of people, it's kind of the, it's if it's a car that you've wanted for a long time, or if it's a car that you just like the fact that it's not available here and it's kind of special and unique, and a lot of people don't know what it is here. That's kind of another thing I think a lot of people, while they want to import these vehicles, is that they just know it's kind of, it's more of like an individual thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. And if you like, Top Rank is a great example. They're a company that's based out of Long Beach area, that area of Southern California, and they bring a lot of cars in, and they're actually one of their the main guys that are running it is one of the guys that was part of the Motorex crew from back in the day that didn't get in any trouble with the law. So he's he's all good with it, and he knows his shit like really, really well. But he wanted to kind of bring this whole idea of importing cars back, and that's when Top Rank was born. And they bring in the cars, and they offer that, you can see the prices on them, and it just says for California buyer, it's not an exact price, but it's between $5,000 to $10,000 plus dollars.
Sure.
For these cars, and the $10,000 is kind of more set for something like a GTR, a Skyline GTR.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's that. So that's basically the dirty side of it, is you need to get that. And that's just to get the car in compliance. After that, the car needs to go to the BAR, the Bureau of Automotive Research, to be checked off. And once that's done and paid for, because I believe that's another couple $1,000s, then you're good. You can drive your awesome right-hand drive Daihatsu Miura Avizanto R around as much as you want. It's just like any other regular car. And then you're going to realize, after you spent all that money, how much of a pain in the ass it is to get any part for it. But
exactly,
that's part of the fun. So
but I think it's also kind of it's a lot of stuff. And I think it's also important for, like, if people that are outside of California might be like, well, why is it so draconian here? It's like, for me, it's sort of, I have mixed feelings about it, because the smog laws here have done a lot of good to help clean the air. If you look at pictures of the Los Angeles skyline in the late 70s, early 80s, and compare it to today, the smog laws work. And it's actually one of those things where, yes, we're definitely, even with all of the work that we've been doing, that there's still a lot of pollution here, and more needs to be done. But it has improved drastically. But on the other side of things, I feel like putting all of this, all these measures on people that just want to import a Skyline, like, how many people are actually going to do this, and how much is all of this extra money and cost really going to help the environment?
Right.
There's just handfuls of people that are going to do this. It really should be, more
lenient.
I don't know. it should be way more lenient for this type of thing for enthusiasts.
The thing about California compared to other states, California just has they have a biannual smog inspection for any car over 10 years old. Like that's it. There's other states that are out there. I mean, I hear our friends at Auto Off Topic talking about getting their sticker for the registration. They have to pass like an actual inspection. We don't have that in California. No. I mean, not that we don't drive hoopties, but like there's some cars out there you're like that thing should not be on the road.
I know. And that's the weird thing. Yeah. Because in Massachusetts, I understand, that's where I think we're talking about here. There, it makes sense there because they salt the roads and the cars basically, they get the frames start to rust out. And and you really need to make sure.
That does make sense. But I think Nevada has that law, and it's like, there's snow in Reno, but it's not like Massachusetts.
But you're right. But you're right. In California, apart from smog, it's kind of it is still kind of the Wild West in California in terms of like what you can. You drive around with no doors. No big deal. No headlights. That's fine.
Exactly. So one more thing about the importing things, the 25-year rule. Next year, cars made in 1996 will be eligible to be imported, which sounds great, except for there's one small snafu in this whole thing. That's when OBD2 came out.
Yes,
and if there's ever a fly in the ointment, a monkey wrench, whatever stupid thing you want to say about it, it's this OBD2. So that's going to actually raise the costs of these the carb tests even more for a 96 and up. So you're talking like this is pretty much all the Nissan R33 Skylines. They started them in 1995, so there is one model year where you can get still OBD1. And then the eventuality that everybody's waiting for 2024 when you are then legally allowed to bring in an R34 Skyline, which is what everybody wants. And that's going to be very expensive. The car is already very expensive in itself because people hold on to them. And there was probably about a third as many of them made as there were R32s. So there's not that many actual R34 GTRs out there. So that's going to become a very, very hot commodity when it's here. And it's not going to be, easy for, everyday Joe to go and get one of these R34s. You're going to need to be, pretty well off, I think, to be able to afford one of those cars.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting when you think about I'm curious if any of our listeners have imported a car to California or other states and what hurdles they might have had in the other states. I'd be interested to hear about that. And if there's anything that we're overlooking, but really California seems to be pretty obviously the most difficult state to import a car into. And, we both live here, so that's problematic. I've kind of considered certain things. You see a lot of you see quite a few JDM cars that are driving around California. They've got Arizona plates or they've got Oregon plates or, and there's kind of like snitch laws where, you're supposed to snitch on your neighbor if you think that they're trying to skirt, actually registering a car in California, which, makes sense, I suppose. They don't want to lose out on that money.
Right.
But, in terms of realistically thinking, how would I actually myself living in Los Angeles import a Pulsar GTIR? It doesn't seem very likely that I'll be able to do it. The car itself, those are kind of going up in value. I remember, a few months ago, maybe a year ago, I saw one for $12,000.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't California compliant yet, but now they're kind of 18, 19. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of getting a little out of the range of what I'd be willing to pay. And the reason why I was kind of thinking that car might be a decent one to import is that I'm pretty sure there's, it's got an SR20 in it. So I'm pretty sure at least some of the parts are available here in the US without having to
I think any of the Nissans that are equipped with the SR20 motor, even people that did the swaps into their 240 SXs here and made them into Silvias, that I think even Nissan dealers are carrying parts for SR20 DET motors, which is
sure. Yeah, because there's enough people that have imported the motors.
I know. It's just so crazy. But I remember hearing about that, a friend of mine worked at a Nissan dealer, and he was just like, "Yeah, we can get SR20 DET parts," and I'm just like, "Wow, that's crazy." And yeah, I mean, you're on the right track with that Pulsar GTIR. I mean, for the listeners that don't know what it is, like, it's got an SR20, but what else does it have? What else does it do, Ethan?
I mean, basically all-wheel drive. It's, they call it the baby Godzilla. So it's, it's kind of like not even like a great looking car. It's sort of like a weird Sentra looking hatchback kind of thing. But it's cool. It's got a wing, little wing on the back of the hatch. Mm-hmm. It's 5-speed manual transmission, obviously turbocharged. They're just really cool cars. And I was trying to figure out like specifically how would I actually make this happen. Really, I feel like the only way that I'd really be able to do it is, which I certainly wouldn't do it illegally. It's like a lot of people, they do the Montana or South Dakota, license plates, and they have sort of like a fake address, but it's hard to insure something like that, because then you're basically essentially committing insurance fraud.
Yeah.
Because you're storing the car in California, but you've got plates in Montana or whatever. So I see people doing that, unless maybe they don't have insurance. Maybe they've got some sort of, what's the other alternative people do with supercars as opposed to insurance, like a bond or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. But, then the other thing I was thinking about is like, well, why doesn't my brother buy the car? He lives in Vermont. Vermont is they have, you basically, the car can be wherever and you can register it in Vermont. So it's like be in his name, register in Vermont, insure it in Vermont, and maybe I'll just borrow it every once in a while in California.
There you go.
That's kind of my approach. It's like, well,
yeah,
it's kind of legal-ish.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it sucks that it comes down to that for the enthusiasts. And you touched on it at the beginning. Like, there's only in the millions upon millions of cars and drivers in California, there's theoretical handful of people that would even want to do this. Yes. And of that handful, there's probably half of them that don't want a GTR, that want something stupid or something to, take to Radwood,
totally. Speaking of something like that, so currently on eBay right now, there's might have mentioned this before in a previous episode, because this car has been for sale for a while and the price has been lowered drastically. It was originally like $8,000 or $9,000. Now it's $5,000. It's a 1994 Mazda Lantis.
Yes,
so this
the
is
Lantis.
The Lantis. It's just, if you have a chance, if you're listening, just look up this car. It's just a cool little hatchback. It's probably not even that quick. I'm not even sure what it's based on. Like a protege platform or something. I'm not sure.
I think it was, yeah.
But it's just kind of a sort of like a hatchback protege and not really worth anything, Mm-hmm. I was thinking about just making an offer $4,000 for this Lantis that I could bring to a couple Radwoods. It'd be fun to drive around and probably not too terrible to get parts for. I don't know. But
maybe depending on the engine,
maybe a little bit. Yeah, exactly. I have to look. It's the 1.8, so I feel like that's probably the.
Oh yeah, it's probably very similar to that.
It's got to be the Miata motor. I don't know why they would. I don't know that for sure, but I'll look it up. But anyway, it's something silly like that. I don't know. So that's kind of I don't really know exactly how I would make it work, and I think that's the problem that a lot of people in California are. There's probably. Like you said, not a ton of people that want to do this, but there's a few people that would do it. And I don't know, a 1994 Mazda Lantis, I can't imagine that the emissions on this car are that bad with this little 4-cylinder motor that's in it,
Exactly. Exactly. Especially if it's based on something that was a motor that was already here. And for all I know, that could make it cheaper. I do know that the cost for like doing a Supra or an NSX from Japan is actually, probably around that $5,000 mark, because it's basically the same engine. They just got to change a couple things out on it, versus like a GTR, which was never offered here. So obviously until whatever it was, 07, when the thing came out, the R35 came out. But yeah, I mean, it should be easier. And, I've never dreamt of going into politics, but I always thought about, if I was in charge or if I had some ability to make something, I would do something for, obviously just for, only reason I would do this would be to for the car enthusiasts. And it would be a very simple thing. Like, just let us have our cars. We can pay a premium that basically, pays off. Like, we're not going to smog it because the stupid thing won't pass because it doesn't have all of the stupid California emissions on it. And it's not my daily driver.
Yeah.
It's like,
what are you going to drive it? Like 500 miles a year, 1,000 miles a year?
Maybe
something?
Because I've not driven a right-hand drive car before. I would like to do it one day, hopefully one day soon. But I can only imagine how much of a pain in the absolute ass it's got to be to make a left-hand turn at a stoplight in Southern California when on the opposing end is some giant brodozer. And you can't, exactly. and it's a non-protected, it's just a green light and you got to just go. I think a couple times doing that is probably enough to, it's not something you would drive every single day. That's the thing. Yeah. Or you'd have, that there's that option, that whole thing. And, it wouldn't be conducive to a daily driver, I think. And that's the whole thing about them is they don't have to be. It's a fun weekend car. So if anybody from the California government's listening, because I know all of them listen to our show.
It's true. They do.
They do. Please just let us have our stupid, crappy cars from Japan. That's all I'm asking. Yeah. I just want, that Daihatsu is great, but my dream Daihatsu to bring in would be a model called the Storia X4. And it's very similar to the idea around your Pulsar GTIR, except for it has a 4-cylinder engine, not a 3-cylinder, but it's only 750 cc's.
Oh, okay.
And it's got a turbo and it's all-wheel drive, and Daihatsu kind of made them to be like a club rally car in a way. So if you can kind of imagine like a Neon ACR, like first generation Neon SER or ACR, I mean.
Yep.
That's kind of the whole thing that Daihatsu went with the Storia X4, and I think that would be. And they look kind of funky too. They look like a Paul car. It's like
it's a little weird.
It's weird. I was like,
it's kind of like somebody took a Mini and hit it with an ugly stick.
And that's true. But the funny thing with that car is that car came out. It was shown in 1997 and then was available to the public in 1998. So that thing predates the Mini. So I loved my Mini, and I still think to this day that Mini looked and said, "Hey, look, that weird looking Daihatsu Storia."
So they took they took the Storia and hit it with the pretty stick.
That's yeah. It kind of looks like a weird fish. But you know what? I love that car. It's so cool. But
that's pretty neat.
But yeah, I mean, it would be awesome to be able to one day have that ability to do that. And I mean,
even just like the weird stuff that nobody wants in Japan, like there's a. Do you remember the Sentras that like the early 90s with the Sentra SER that era? They made just a basic Nissan Sunny that was all-wheel drive. It wasn't even a cool motor. It wasn't the SR20 or anything. It was just a 4-door kind of boring Sentra that was all-wheel drive. Like, I think that would be kind of neat to have here, totally. Just stupid stuff like that nobody cares about, but it's just sort of a neat oddity,
Yeah. No, and that's exactly, the same way I feel about it. I would love to have something just odd. I mean, would I love to own a GTR? Yeah, hell yeah. I think that would be a ton of fun, but they're they're very expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, an R32, even like a high mileage, I guess you would call them high mileage R32s, you're still looking $50,000 to $60,000 for that car. And I mean, it's like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But that's the price we pay for living in California. If you live in Virginia, you can go down to Japanese Classics, the importer that's over there, and I think they're like probably like 35, and boom, you got yourself a GTR. So it's tough. It's tough. Now I want to go play Gran Turismo 2 and drive the Daihatsu Storia X4. That's what That's what I want to do. It's such a cool car. So
and I'm just looking at this red Pulsar GTIR. I actually went so far as to like email the importer and try to figure out how much it would cost to bring in I think they're asking like 16 for the car, and it's probably a couple grand to at least to get the car here. And then it's probably more like three grand to get the car here. And then, as a California, what do you do then? You're like, all right, I'll just park it in my driveway and look at it.
Right. And look at it. Well, there is an option, kind of an experience, should I say. And it's actually a really cool idea that I wish I had, but I also don't live in the state of Nevada. But there's a company in Las Vegas that's opening up very soon called Rent JDM.
Yes.
And so basically what they do, I mean, if you've been to Las Vegas, you know that if you're on the strip, there's like people like renting out Ferrari and Lamborghinis and stuff like that. So you can go cruise the strip and, be obnoxious. But there's a company, this company, Rent JDM, is kind of offering the same thing, not with the intention to go be obnoxious on the strip, but to rent Japanese cars, like imported cars. And they've got, I believe, R32, 33, I think even an R34 Skyline
to rent. They have a Pulsar GTIR. Too.
And they have a Pulsar GTIR. And they also have
a red one. Yeah.
A red one. And they have the ABC cars, so the AutoZam AZ1, the Honda Beat, and the Suzuki Cappuccino, as well as a slew of other cars you can rent. And, I know we've talked about Las Vegas before, and we've kind of both talked about our kind of disdain we have for the city.
Yeah.
I would go back and spend a weekend in Vegas just to rent one of those cars, because there's a lot of great places to go driving around there. And I think that would be an absolutely awesome thing to do. Like, if we could secure a car or a car or two for the weekend, that would be cool. So if anybody from Rent JDM's listening,
yes, they're all listening. Yes.
They're all listening. I think they all listen to us. Yeah, let us know, or, hit us up. We'll be glad to, go out and test out a,
for sure,
Honda Beat for me. I think I would take the Beat. I think you would take the Pulsar GTI.
I would take the Pulsar, yeah, for sure.
It'd be awesome. It'd be so cool. So yeah, so if you're in Vegas and you want to drive a JDM car and you've never driven one or never driven right-hand drive, there you go. So I think they're opening next month. So
oh wow, okay, cool.
Yep,
interesting. Well, maybe we can see if we can have them on the show. Let's try to track them down.
Ooh, let's do that.
All right, maybe they'll maybe work something out. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right,
we'll figure it out. Nudge, wink, wink.
Exactly. Cool.
Well, very good. I hope I answered some questions about how to bring a car in and the absolute pain in the ass headache it is in the state of California. I hope I was pretty much on the money with the the hoops and everything like that. I mean, I feel pretty confident in the knowledge, but if I didn't, let me know.
Not, just send us an email and tell us that we're wrong.
Yeah, but that's fine. I'm used to getting yelled at, so it's all good.
Nice. Yep. Yeah, well, I think that was a fun topic. I really want to try to get something, in my driveway that it was not sold here. I think I might want to start with something a little bit cheaper, like that Lantis, or something silly like that. So
sure.
But in the meantime, I probably have to deal with the cars that are not quite working here that I already have.
Yeah.
I'm working on a video with the 1990 Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix. So there's a little bit of movement with that car that hopefully will go up on the YouTube channel in a little bit. But
nice.
Other than that, I'm not sure if this coronavirus is going to be slowing down press cars at all. I haven't had one in a little while, but I was hoping to get the new Kia Niro EV, but I haven't quite been able to work out the schedule on that. So hopefully some new videos on my weird cars coming soon. So
yes.
Why don't we tell everybody where we can find each other on the interwebs? Actually, we're probably going to be socially distancing, so we're going to be readily available on Twitter and Instagram at be at the ready if anybody wants to.
Any given moment. Any given moment.
Yeah.
DM me at 3 a.m. No, please don't. So you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram, both at Paul's Finest Hour, where I will hopefully have some pictures of a lowered fit pretty soon.
Nice.
We'll see.
Very cool. Yep. I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Ethan Tufts. I've recently been posting a lot of pictures of my Stanza Wagon.
Yes.
Yes. And youtube.com/Hello Road. apart from the Turbo Grand Prix video, I've got a video with my whole fleet, in that video, I'll be perhaps revealing a new vehicle that I purchased. So stay tuned.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's it for today.
That's it. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.